All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you so much for listening, for watching, however you consume this show. Appreciate you guys very, very much. We are actually on the video side anyway, live here on a Monday night at Imperial Pizza, 1035 Abbott Road, in the heart of South Buffalo, and I'm joined right now by a very special guest on this live episode of Talking Buffalo, Channel 7 sports anchor reporter, Dom Tibbetts, man. What's going on, buddy? How you doing?
Ben, I'm great, brother. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. I come to South Buffalo. Some of my favorite food spots are down here. I don't look that Irish, but my last name is Tibbetts. So if you are in South Buffalo, just know I think I am. I do belong somewhere in South Buffalo.
Man,
yeah,
you belong. Everybody belongs here. Don't take those wings away. The wings. Leave them up. We're communicating here in real time.
I love it.
I got to set.
It's a post-podcast snack.
We ate as much as we could before we got going, but we left some on the table.
I just want to make sure I didn't get food coma for the next talk here.
I've been in a food coma for about 12 years now, buddy. Anyway, so yeah, we're here at Imperial Pizza. We're going to get into some Buffalo Bills stuff here, some of your biggest takeaways from the game. Mostly good. Maybe a couple things we'll get nitpicky about. We'll take a look at Miami coming up here, short week this Thursday. Sean McDermott, some pretty significant injury news that we will hit on as well. But before we get into any of that here, man, so we are here at Imperial. This is our first time actually getting together and hanging out in person, too.
Yes.
So it's nice to physically meet you. You've been on the show before. We've talked. We've had, a relationship on social media through the podcast, but it's nice to meet you in person. We got to sit down here and bang out some wings before the show.
Which were dynamite. Very good.
Very good.
And I've always been impressed with Imperial Pizza. I'm very, very particular about pizza, only because as a guy who grew up in Central New York, I adhere more to the thin crust style, which is sometimes a little bit harder to find in Buffalo.
Very.
I think Imperial does it really well, where it's not you're not blending into that Detroit style. You still get a little bit of that Buffalo style with the thin crust. Sauce is good. Imperial is one of my favorite pizza spots. So happy that they're sponsored here and happy that you were excited to bring me here.
Well, that's a good take, man. Look, the medium are the medium. They're fine. They're nothing special about the medium.
Yep.
They're good pizza joint medium wings. You're not, if you're at a party or if you're at the bar having a couple plates, you have some medium wings.
Sure.
They're fine. I had you try some Murphs. Those are the ones that I really like a lot here. And they're not unique to Imperial Pizza. There's a lot of South Buffalo places that have Murph-style wings.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
Yeah, but they're better here. They're just done better here. They're one of those wings that are actually, they're saucy. And in this case, sometimes I don't always love saucy wings, but in this case, we were talking about it. It's almost like having chicken wings with pasta sauce.
Yes.
Really taste that Parmesan a little bit inside the flavor. They're really, really good. They're tasty. They're some of my favorites.
And they had a nice kick to it, too. But I thought I was actually looking at wings sitting in, like, meat sauce that my grandma would cook up on a Sunday. But then you take a couple bites, and the heat hits you, the flavor, the garlic parm, you get that hint of barbecue, too. The flavor profile is all over the place on those wings, but it blends together perfectly.
The last thing I'm going to say about this place, because I don't want this to sound like an hour-long infomercial.
Hey, it's all right.
It's a great place to be,
yes,
man. Let me
sure.
say this. But one of my favorite things about this place that I will say for people out there is if you and I are going to hook up say, hey, buddy, hey, Dom, let's go have a beer and get some wings. My favorite thing about this place is whatever you think of those wings, like the wings we just have right now, we could come here 20 times and you're going to have the same exact opinion of those wings that you just had. There's a lot of places, and I'm sure you've experienced this before, where you go somewhere and you're like, oh, my God, these wings are absolutely incredible. They're killer. And then you tell your other friend, you're like, hey, man, I found the spot. They're awesome. And then you go there and they don't taste anything like that. Very inconsistent. This place is, if nothing else, a model of consistency. So however you feel about these wings, about this pizza, about the subs or whatever, man, you're always going to consistently feel that way here.
Down the line, when you want to do this again, Pat, you just let me know. I will come back here every day of the week, twice on Sundays, when the Bills aren't playing and I can actually be here.
All right, let's get into some stuff here. So actually, let's talk about your podcast now that you got going on.
So kind of you. Thank you.
With Brother Bill. So when I heard about this a couple weeks ago on social media, I'm like, that's interesting. Brother Bill and Don, well, you didn't not use, that doesn't surprise me, but Brother Bill, part of a podcast. I'm very interested in learning how that came about. Like, give me some of the deets, man.
Yeah.
How did you guys hook up and decide that this was something that you guys want to do?
When we had a conversation with a couple people at the station. Matt and our digital guy DJ. He's our digital media director. And we were thinking about, okay, leading the charge. We've done a really good job, I think, between the specialty shows that we put out every Monday, the pregame shows when the Bills, like, for instance, coming up week 3, shameless plug, the Thursday night game is going to be on Channel 7.
Yeah.
So we've done a really good job over the past couple of years of building this brand. But now in this new digital age, like, where can we expand on this? What could we do? And for me, I was like, okay, what could I do to kind of do something outside the box, leave my mark on this, help our brand out. And, Beauvais obviously has his own thing with Always Game Day. So my guy DJ and I were brainstorming, okay, if we start this podcast, I don't want it and never want it to be just me talking on camera, giving my Bills takes. That is only going to go so far. One day my mom's going to be the only subscriber of that. But we said, like, how can we find a way to be different? What differentiates us from, let's face it, Pat, a very saturated podcast market when it comes to Bills content creation. I'm glad that there is a space, but there's a lot. How can we be different? Let's go a traditional media guy and bring in a content creator or somebody who just has a big following, who the Bills Mafia fan base really resonates with. And Brother Bill, like, from the start, just jumped out. We're like, let's see if we can approach him and do this. I shot him a direct message, I think, on Twitter before I actually texted him and got his number from Beauvais. I gave him probably the longest paragraph of, like, this is why I think it would work.
Yeah.
Let me explain the parameters. And all I just got back was, yeah, man, I like this. This sounds good. Just like a sentence. And I was like, okay, did I, like, sell it right to you? Are we good? So we started talking over the spring, got into the summer, got things rolling, and then right before week 1, we dropped the promotion video, wanted to have a podcast ready, so we had one ready. We just released our 4th episode of it, so we are still in our infancy stages of this podcast, but it streams anywhere. You find Pat's podcast, Talking Buffalo, Spotify, Apple, Google, YouTube. You can find it on WKBW.com. It's all there. It was just a big couple months of brainstorming it and how to work it and put it together into, something that we're really happy we're starting, but it's far from a finished product. And with every episode, I can tell Bill and I are doing a good job of just getting more comfortable with each other.
Developing some chemistry.
The chemistry, exactly. Like today we had a really fun, I don't know if you saw this on Instagram, so we took the idea, I think it was the account, the Buffalo Breakdown. We did a segment in the show today kind of mimicking that, where we picked a bunch of Bills players. What would they be doing if they weren't a Buffalo Bills player? And just gave, like, our ideas for like different jobs and stuff. Like Deion Dawkins for me is like an ice cream driver. He said it was funny. One of his good ones was Dawson Knox is like a Bob Ross painter, like owns like a Flair art studio and just does like painting lessons. So like very, very much so talk about the Bills to recap it, but it goes back to how can we be different. Let's have fun with this. We are both not X's and O's guys. There are plenty of other Bills content creators and podcast hosts and media members who are way better at talking about X's and O's than Bill and I are, admittedly. So how can we be different? Let's just have it be, it's simply put, Pat, it's just two dudes that like football, that like talking about it, and it's not, I wouldn't call it bro-y, but just a very simple, washed-down podcast that's, I think, needs to be consumable, easily consumable, and so far, I think we're doing pretty well at that.
You bring up a great point, too. This really is, and I'm sure it's like this. It's not just Buffalo. I'm sure most NFL cities, they have a very saturated market when it comes to podcasts. Yep. Everybody in the world is a podcast, right, basically. So to your point, something I agree with fully, you really need to do something that's a little bit different. And it's very difficult to just do nothing but talk straight Bills. That there is a space for that too in this market. Yeah. And especially like you said, talking by yourself, first of all, you probably get bored of hearing your own self-talk for 30 minutes.
When I go back and watch this later, I'm going to hate the way my voice sounds. Like I am so sorry to all the listeners and viewers right now that have to hear this, because I am still the person, does this for a living. I hate the sound of my voice.
There's a lot I've actually talked to a decent amount of people in the sports media who are on TV or do podcasts where they say that, even though they sound great, but they always say, I hate the sound of my own voice. But yeah, look, man, there's like a Joe Marino. Joe Marino's got that gift from Locked On Bills. He can talk to a half hour. Feels like you're having a one-on-one conversation with him. And it's consistent and it's every day. But generally speaking, it's really hard, and you got to do a little bit something to stand out. Like this show. Football, I'm not going to say it's secondary, but I spend a lot of time when I have a guest like you on, especially if we're in a setting like this at a pizzeria. I want to give fans an opportunity to know more about you as opposed to just straight Bills talk. I feel like that's what kind of makes this show a little bit different. So I like where you're going at with Brother Bill.
Yeah.
You know what's funny about the Buffalo market, and I wonder if it's like this in other cities. I would say no. But do you notice how many Bills fans are like almost like borderline celebrities? Like they're very recognizable. Guys like Brother Bill, who is absolutely one of the more popular Buffalo Bills fan figures, in this fan base.
Yep.
Del Reed, of course. I mean, Pinto Ron and Bill's Elvis. There's just, the list goes on. There's a ton of them. Warlock, so many recognizable people.
Yep.
I take you back a little bit.
100%.
So like some of these fans are as popular as some of the people that cover the team, or almost some of the players.
100%.
Like
All those people you mentioned have, I would say, 30 times the following that I do on social media or just my presence online as well. And somebody who just likes football and knew about this fan base when I was doing my research when I came here, 4 years ago. Like, about this, one thing that really stood out about why I thought Brother Bill worked too is because our age is so similar.
Yeah.
Like Del Reed is a guy that did pop up in my mind, and like this is never to say that like Del Reed couldn't come onto our podcast. Like as we grow more, the guests, all that flow, how it is. Like
sure.
We'll start bringing people on, and the conversation will only get better from there too. But the appeal with growing a podcast, bring on somebody who Brother Bill has a big following, who's very popular, who is very good at the space. He doesn't give himself enough credit. Like we talk about the videos he makes every game day, he's like, I don't know, man, it's rinky dink, and I just use this editing software on my phone. I'm like, dude, I wasn't doing any of that, even before I got into like using professional editing systems. Like you got to give yourself some credit there too. And we kind of banked on the fact that we knew if we got him talking, got him comfortable, it was going to work out. I also think like we just have a very good understanding of what we both wanted out of this, and hopefully it continues to grow and we can keep bringing these Bills Mafia and these content creators on, because again, how can you be different, be a voice for the fan, get people in there, people that to your point, bringing on like media members, give people a perspective that they can't find anywhere else.
Brother Bill's a very creative dude, and it's probably, I would imagine, I have never even tried it, I would imagine it's very difficult to come up with different themes every week for, his hype videos that he does.
He said the Jets, the division opponents are tough. He is going to get really, really creative with the division opponents.
You play him twice a year. And last thing I'll say, and also it's unique, and I do like the fact that he's now in this space, because I haven't really seen him in this space before, with much respect to Del Reed. And you will not find anybody who loves Del Reed more than I do. That's my guy, all right? But I see enough of Del, all right, man? I love me some Del Reed. Del will be the first one to tell you that, too. Plus, he has his own damn podcast.
Right, he does. Because
you don't need to be on
it
anymore. That's enough Del Reed podcast.
But I always say, too, Pat, like, Bills fans, like, the thing that always stands out to me about just the time I'm covering this is why I think even like doing a podcast in a saturated market works is because Bills fans are always looking for content. Like they'll throw on the podcast and maybe they don't listen to the whole thing. Maybe they'll find something they like, they'll skip ahead and they'll like know which segment they want to get to. But that's unique though. And like we appreciate that. That's just how you grow, and Bills Mafia wants more Bills related content in some way, shape, or form. They're sickos and I love them for it. Like that's they want this stuff, and we're hopefully going to give it to them in a way that, again, I think is easily digestible.
Sure. And I mean, you're right about Bills fans wanting to consume as much content as humanly possible. It also helps that they're a good team and that they win a lot. You know what I mean?
That solves a lot of problems for sure.
You either got to be really good or you got to be really bad. It's got to be one or the other, and that's the way people want to listen. If you're a mid team, if you're Florida 500, if you're a Jeff Fisher for life team, nobody's going to give a shit about you. So I do kind of like that. And you're right, man. Listen, I consume a lot of these podcasts myself. I like to be informed, entertained, learn a couple things along the way. Yeah. After our Bills game, I'll listen to Sal and Matt, of course. I'll listen to Joe Marino. I'll listen to Cover One. I listen to all these guys. So looking forward to adding you to the mix. And like I said, getting something a little bit different. All right, so now kind of turning our attention, or at least getting close to anyway, turn our attention to this Sunday's game. You actually went to cover the game.
Yeah, I was.
You were in.
Yep, got to go down to New Jersey. New
Jersey. Kind of take us just for a few minutes.
Yeah.
Like behind the scenes a little bit, going to cover as a media member, hitting the road, as a TV guy and covering a road game like that. Like what's your typical weekend like when you, like, let's just use this game for an example. Yep. You go and you want to cover this game. Well, what's that like for you?
Yep, so we're driving down there just so we can bring all of my equipment there, because I'm still going to shoot the game. I'm still bringing my tripod, a live view to hook up for our post-game press conferences that we can stream. I'm going to shoot highlights still on the field, and then I need to have, my mic cables to turn a bunch of stories and packages for our shows.
There's a lot of
afterwards.
equipment to lug.
Yeah, it's enough where we got to have a cart for it, for sure. It's just, my camera now this year I've been using a really nice one. It's worth so much. I shouldn't be trusted to hold. I don't know why the station trusts me to hold this like $35,000 camera, but they do. It's a big thing, but it shoots beautifully if you can just tweak the settings right and get working with it. It's a lot of equipment, but so Saturday morning, let's just say this weekend, I get in the station maybe around 7. I want to get on the road because it's a 6-hour drive, roughly 6-hour drive to get down to where I was staying in Newark. But I also wanted to make a pit stop in Syracuse, say hi to my folks real quick.
Sure.
So load up the car, all the equipment, grab a coffee. We're on the way. Make a pit stop for about an hour or so to say hi to the people. Get in there, do some, I would say Newark, we probably got in around 3, 4 o'clock. Do some work, cut some reels for digital. Call it a night there, too, just because the next day is going to be so long. It's, you're talking a 12 to 13, 14-hour day when it comes to driving like that, too. So wake up, go out to, I met up with Dan Fates in Hoboken, and we had dinner with one of his buddies from college. It was a great time. Yeah. Wake up that morning, drive to the stadium with all the equipment, get in there, set up in the press conference room, and then I take my camera and this little, it's tool called an Osmo. I'll just go out on the field, start getting pregame shots like Trey White being out there. Like we knew, had a good feeling that Trey was going to play. Get out there, go get the pregame shots of the guys who are on the bubble or you think are going to play, or whatever that may be too. Shoot the game, do all your work afterwards, cut it up, finish things for the later shows, cut a morning package that they can run that shows that we were still there. And then I would say like in this instance, I drove back to Syracuse last night to cut the trip kind of in half almost. Mm-hmm. So I'm on the road by 7:30, a quick stop at a Wawa to get a quick bite to eat.
Oh, my God,
yeah.
Wawa.
Yeah, Wawa's the best. I love it. You'll never find someone who loves Wawas more than this guy, who doesn't even have them easily accessible.
You might win, but I might rival you, dude.
That's fair. Hey, listen, it's a space. It's like the Bills. It's like the Bills content space, Pat. It is Wawa space is for everybody. So yeah, then we hop on the road, go back to Syracuse around 11:30 last night, then finish the trip. I recorded the podcast with brother Bill today. Drove back, got in the station right about 3-ish, right before McDermott talked, and did the 5 o'clock show while Matt went live and called it a day. But that's it. It's a lot, but it's also not, because if you do it enough, you kind of know like the routine of it. Like point A to point B gets you to C to D to E, and if it goes like it did yesterday with that game, it's pretty much a self-explanatory game. No dramatics, no flair. Everything kind of goes in perfect harmony. You do your work and get out of there.
Well, let me say this. I'm going to get the train back on the tracks in about 30 seconds.
Yeah,
here, okay?
Fine. I'm all right.
You threw me off a little bit with the Wawa comment, all right?
No, let's talk about it.
So Dom and I are sitting here. Again, this is our first in-person conversation, and, we're having food. We're talking about football. We're talking about high school football. We've talked plenty about Florida.
Yep.
Shame on me for not bringing up Wawa. Maybe I didn't bring up Wawa because I'd be like, oh, man, I don't know if anyone else liked Wawa as much as I do. I'm going to tell you right now, people will ask all the time, what do you miss most about Florida? And I swear to God, I'm not lying. This is the God's honest truth. It's not the beach. It's not, the winter weather is. Like right there.
Yeah, that's pretty nice.
About that. I'm not going to lie about that. But
the no state income tax is pretty cool, too. I will say I do miss that.
Well, you know what? I didn't get an opportunity to really experience that, because even when I lived in Florida, I still had a New York job. So I still had a New York tax.
That's true.
So I didn't get to live that luxury. But honest to God, and I'm not just saying it, Zaxby's, by the way, is very high up there. That's in Florida, and you can't get that in Buffalo. But Wawa, oh, my God. Everything about Wawa, I love. The coffee, the food, the fact that you can get a bagel at 7 in the morning, you can get a steak sub drunk after being at the bar at 12:30, 1 o'clock at night, when nothing else in the world is open. And for a gas station, it was pretty damn quality good food to it.
It's like, in Pennsylvania, if we go down to Pittsburgh, or like a couple weeks ago, I went to Hershey, Pennsylvania for a wedding. So on the way, Pat, driving there, and we are going off the rails, which is totally fine when it comes to Wawa.
Let's go.
I will map out the direction where I'll plug in a Wawa stop, and I'll find out which is the most easily accessible. And Sheetz is fine, too. For the people in Pennsylvania, I do like Sheetz, but Wawa's number 1, Sheetz is number 2. So if I link up with one of those in terms of gas station food quality, a good smoothie or like a coffee drink, some food you need for a little drive, you can't beat it. Wawa, number 1 in the books.
All right, now let's get back on the tracks here a little bit. I couldn't help myself when you mentioned Wawa.
It's all right.
That just got me going. Anyway, I was on Sal's House with Sal Capaccio last week, and one of the things we were talking about was the job of sports media and covering games and stuff, and how it's different for other people. And for somebody like yourself, like everything you described, I'm thinking in my mind, well, that's hard. That's a lot of work. Like, you're on the field, you're shooting, you're editing, you're doing stuff. The guys like, well, Sal's on the sideline, so he's kind of different too. But like, say, Perino, like Matt Perino or Joe B.
Yeah.
Or Skursky and those guys, they're in the press box or typing notes. If it's a blowout, if it's a Bills-Jets game, they probably have half their story written, midway through the third quarter at that point.
Exactly.
How much extra work? It's a lot of
it is.
extra work. Like doing
is.
the video component of it. Like a lot of people,
Yeah.
a lot of people might be misguided or misinformed, and they might see you on TV for 2.5 minutes, on a broadcast. Like, well, like you just show up like 5 minutes before the broadcast and go on the air for a few minutes, or even at the games themselves that you cover. But
it's
a lot of work that goes into that.
Those are the people that think that the Walter Cronkite era exists. Like guy who just he got off the golf course at 4:30. He's anchoring world news at 6. Like that doesn't happen anymore. It is a lot of work. It's one of those things, and you understand this. Like, if you're working in media, you're working in sports, like, this is what I want to do for as long as I can remember. Early high school, when I said I want to get into sports broadcasting. Yeah. So you have those moments, and, like, for me, it's a lot of work. It can be a grind, and there are other tough days. Yesterday, though, I'm reminded, like, I'm getting paid to go cover the Bills at MetLife Stadium, and they're, making this game really easy on me to cover. But if you had asked the 14-year-old Dom that was, like, envisioning what his career would be, like, those moments are cool. Like, last year when Monday Night Football was down for the Jets game, and we had our pregame show there, and that's when I introed live my story I did on Javon Solomon and the Tallahassee connection that we share. Even, like, I remember I had a moment where I just, like, looked up. It was, like, something out of, like a movie. Sure. I remember I just kind of looked up and around, and I was like, oh, this is cool. Yeah. This is cool. And, like, listen, yesterday's game was pretty easy for writers, I'm sure, too. We all have our tough moments. Like, there are days where the job is a grind, and the travel is tough, too. Like, everybody who has to get up and make connecting flights. Like, last year, the past couple years, Bills have been traveling all over the country, all over the world, even when you go back to the London game. The travel schedule is a lot easier this year, which I know a lot of people, and especially on the media side, are very happy about.
Those little things matter to guys like you.
But, if you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life kind of thing. And I think for the most part that holds true. So while I appreciate the recognition that, yes, it is a lot of work, Pat, it's enjoyable at the end of the day. As long as I make my deadlines and my bosses are happy, then I'm happy, and it's a great experience. Are
you surprised, and if so, I would imagine pleasantly surprised at what appears to me and people from the outside? I mean, I got some intimate knowledge. I've gotten to know a lot of people in the sports media, but the relationships in this market, for the most part, seem to be really tight. Like, it's a tight-knit group. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not trying to beat the shit out of the opposition. It is competition at the end of the day, and everybody wants to have the best story, produce the best stuff, and do the best job. That goes without saying. But kind of like off camera, or when the camera's not rolling, or there's not a show to go on, friendships. I'll say there's
100%.
Friendships, there's relationships.
100%.
I said this last week. I'll bring this up again since I have you on. A year or so ago, I did a Sal's House show. It was a Bills season preview, and Sal had about 6 or 7 guests. Sal's got 10,000 guests on every goddamn show he's got to do. But anyway, so I'm one of them. I get a nice little segment with Sal. And when I'm done talking to him, I look over at the table, like would be like right there, and there's beers and wings, and I look over, and it's John Scott, and it's Matthew Beauvais, and it's Josh Reed, 3 sports directors from 3 competing stations in Buffalo, all sitting down, having a conversation, and enjoying a beer together. And I know sometimes on the road too, that's kind of like those groupings. Sal's part of that group, but I was just like, wow, man. Again, it is a competition, but that doesn't mean that you can't have relationships with others. And I think personally, I don't know, maybe some people disagree with that. Maybe there's some people out there who say, well, they're too chummy. I don't know. I've heard that before. I don't feel that way, but I think it's really cool to have that kind of bond, so to speak, with a lot of your coworkers. For sure. To the person who says, like, I think they're too chummy, my counter argument would be, what are you not getting out of it? Like, we still all have jobs to do. We're all professionals. We all do want our work to be the best. I know that. Matt knows that too. I think that's why we work so well together. But there's nothing malicious in the way that you need to attack
trying to be the best or to put out the best content and do the best stories and be the best in whatever you're trying to do in this realm. You can have those friendships, and it's so – I don't know how rare it is, to your point, because I've only worked in 2 other markets before this, and my first market out of college was Montana. My best friends out there worked for the paper that were my rivals.
Yeah.
Well, they were the first people I approached to like, hey, you want to go grab a beer? I'm new. I'm 2,000 miles away from anybody and everyone I know. So like, and they took me right in. I'm still to this day they're lifelong friends. Tallahassee, I made very good friends with the other TV station that was there. Where I will say it's different though. You have a big D1 school like that. I remember there's the 24/7 Sports and the On 3 and all these kind of college writers and these content hubs. I always felt like they didn't look at the local TV side as real. Like they knew like, oh, well, you still have to cover high school. We're predominantly Florida State. You stay in your lane, we'll stay in ours. I always did feel there was a little bit of tension between the writers and the TV folk down there.
Sure.
And I didn't like that at all. And it doesn't make my job enjoyable. Like if we're all getting into a Mike Norvell scrum and then I'm getting bumped to the side, nobody will make room because I have a camera. Meanwhile, somebody just has to do this with their phone, but they're not going to let me in to get a camera shot, So I've never once experienced that here. Everybody has been welcoming. Everybody has been, I think, very respectful of each other for the most part. Like Perino's a very funny example because we were talking about him too. Perino and I's friendship has now given me like 20 other friends. We play pickup basketball in this like little rec league that we have on Wednesdays and Friday mornings, and like I have like 20 people now that I could consider friends because we could be at that bar behind us, Pat, and have a beer and talk for hours. Like that part of it is super cool. And like working with 13 Wham in Rochester, like Dan, Jen, and Mike, I couldn't adore another local TV station more than I do 13 Wham. Like they're the best. So
that is awesome.
You can be friends, you can be chummy with other people, and I promise you, to whoever might think that, it's not going to detour the quality of anything we put out as media. It's still going to be great. We still all very much know that like we have to make our bosses happy, and we do want to be the best, but you don't have to be a malicious, let's say what it is, dick about it.
Well, let me say this much. You mentioned Matt Perino, and I just can't help myself there. If Matt was here with me at Imperial right now, instead of having these comfortable headphones on, and being able to move and turn and talk to you, I'd be having to hold the hand mics like this because Matt refuses steadfastly to ever put on
prima donna
headsets. Although he did wear a backwards cap last week to my show at Sunny Red, so I could have got him. And of course, it's a week where I don't have. Actually, we had 2 guests, so I only have 2 headsets. But anyway. We are here live at Imperial Pizza in South Buffalo, 1035 Aber Road. I'm with Dom Tibbetts from Channel 7. And you said something earlier I want to let people know, too. The Bills game is going to be on Channel 7 this Thursday. It's on Amazon Prime, but if you don't have Amazon Prime, you live in the Buffalo market, no worries. You watch the game.
Thank you for that verifier. You do have to be in the Buffalo TV market. Like if you live in Rochester TV market, you will have to get Amazon. But if you are in the Buffalo TV market, you can catch a game right on 7 ABC WKBW.
And are you guys doing anything before?
Yep, we'll have a full hour pregame show. A lot of really cool stuff. We have some things in the work. I can't tell you about it, but it's going to be another really good show. Our back staff, if I can just plug her, we have Julia Skebel as our main producer for leading the charge. We don't ever get. I never get to ever like shine and put some spotlight on her. If you ever watch Leading the Charge and you're like, wow, these graphics, everything, the animation's really cool, it's Julia Skebel. She's a rock star, so I'm very happy that she gets a primetime opportunity to like showcase our product once again. It'll be a great time, and I think it's obviously going to be a really great game. Bills can go 3-0, which they should, if we're being honest with ourselves. The way Miami look.
Points.
But hey, you know how division games are. You never know.
12.5-point favor right now. We'll get to Miami here before we get off the air. Let's go back to this weekend. Bills 30, Jets 10. Almost got mad that the Jets scored that late touchdown because it feels like 20 points wasn't enough. You know what I mean? This game was not even that close.
But it was Tyrod Taylor moving the ball down the field.
A little bit of love for him,
yeah.
Man. He's one of the, I had a conversation with with my guy Joe from Queens on the show actually yesterday. When he retires, ultimately, when he might be 70 years old at this rate before he retires, and he'll still be back there avoiding sacks and making plays too. But he'll always have a special place, I think, in Buffalo. And I think that'll be the case more when he's done playing. Like, he'll lead the charge someday.
Yep.
He'll be the, he's not going to pay for a steak dinner here in Buffalo.
The leading the charge thing is the first. Like, he will do the where else would you rather be than right here, right now. Like, he will, when he is done playing and he decides to hang it up, within a season or two, I'm sure they will bring him back for, like, one of those, like, week 5, week 6 home games. 1 o'clock kickoff maybe, but he will absolutely have his place here.
100%. All right, so like I said, he leads them down to a fourth quarter garbage touchdown The Bills just completely dominated this game. They score on their first 4 possessions. They hold the Jets scoreless on their first 4, and they create a turnover. The first guy I want to talk about, I want to get your take on. My biggest takeaway was just the play of Joey Bosa. I'm sure everybody's been, catching up on his performance.
Yeah.
I have to write it down because there's too much shit here to know off the top of my head. 46.7% pressure rate, 40% win rate, 7 quarterback pressures, a sack, 2 forced fumbles. He had a 95.8 PFF grade, which is one of the highest defensive grades I've ever seen on PFF. And I know to take PFF and their grades with a grain of salt.
Right,
but
of course.
All the numbers in this case just completely support the way he played in that football game. It's early. Mm-hmm. He's got to stay healthy, of course,
right,
and
of
that's an if.
Yep.
But what you've seen from him in the first 2 games, this looks like, dare I say, Dom, one of potentially the bigger free agent steals. And that's crazy to say that someone's getting $2.5 million. Well, that's just a steal right now these first couple games. He's got 3 forced fumbles. He was a man amongst boys, I thought, against the Jets right tackle, by the way, a first-round pick, primarily up against him, who did a great job against a very good Pittsburgh Steelers pass rush the week before. What did you see from Joey Bosa?
Yeah, you just saw a veteran just going to work. And I think with Joey, what he said after the game really stuck out to me, even when I recapped him in our stories yesterday, was, he's acknowledged, and he's talked about it so much this summer and the offseason, Pat, is like the injuries have really hampered his career the past few years. Mm-hmm. Joey Bosa doesn't have, and I'm 95% sure of this, I don't think he has an all-pro selection, which is crazy. I think he has a couple Pro Bowls, but if I looked at Pro Football Reference a while back correctly, I don't think he has
I don't think so either.
I don't think he has an all-pro nod, which is crazy to think because you think Joey Bosa, you're like, wow, that's one of the better edge rushers that we've had in this kind of current generation of football. The injuries have really hampered him. So what he said yesterday I thought stuck out was he just said, I'm having fun. And you hear that a lot about guys when they come to Buffalo. They feel like they can be themselves and they play free. But I think you're seeing that translate on the field. The forced fumble yesterday where Epinesa scoops it up. What a huge play. Like, that's right. Like, I'm right behind the play. See that happening. Great pressure, great win rate like you mentioned there too. And the numbers won't always tell the full story. Like, I'm sure there are things in terms of, the opportunities maybe he has to seal the edge or whatever it may be where he's affecting the play in other ways that aren't going to pop on film. But I go back to that sack. There was 2 plays prior to that. Like, I'm in my head, like, and it's as easy to say because we're talking about Joey Bosa. In my head, I'm like, and I think I turned to Dan Fates on the sideline. And I was like, Bosa's going to go get one here. He is murdering this right tackle right now. Mm-hmm. He is blowing by him. It's only a matter of time. And then he finally got one on Justin Fields right there at the, in the third quarter or whatever it was. You're seeing a guy who is playing free, who is that impact edge rusher that the Bills needed. I think he's a great opposite of Greg Rousseau. Kind of complements each other really well because I think Greg does a lot of things that Joey necessarily doesn't do as well and vice versa. Staying healthy is so key for him. You'd almost wish it like you could just guarantee like, hey, maybe he just like takes some weeks off and you'll just have him for the rest of the season when the games really matter in December and January. But you're just seeing a guy who still has some juice in the tank, and he's told us that, and he's a premier edge rusher who's playing like it. And Buffalo finally has that edge talent, kind of like when Von first got here, where you're like, man, the game can really change. Like, I think of Von Miller's first year, the Kansas City game, where he forces Mahomes out of the pocket, stays with him, and Mahomes throws that interception to Taron Johnson, that regular season game that sealed it up for them.
Yeah.
Like, that was a play that I always will say was synonymous to what Von Miller's time was here. Joey Bosa had 2 very good plays yesterday that I don't think are on that scale. Obviously, what Von did in that game, that circumstance is way different. But that you're starting to see, like, man, this guy, if he can stay healthy, keep playing that way, he's going to have signature marks on this defense.
I don't want to take anything away from Von Miller, or at least I should say I want to be fair to him because when he first got here before the ACL tear, he was a beast. He was headed towards an absolute Pro Bowl season, maybe all-pro consideration. He was great. And then he got hurt.
Yeah.
And then he wasn't the same player. So, again, with being fair to him, and it's only 2 games, but right now, the upgrade that you see from Joey Bosa as compared to the version of Von Miller that we saw post-ACL injury is just crazy to me. And I will say one other thing, too, about Joey Bosa. I mean, I knew he was a big guy, very strong, deceptively fast, gets to the quarterback. We knew that. Maybe I took it for granted or just didn't know. He's technically sound. Like, he is a smart football player, too. Like, the way he punched that ball out on Sunday to force that
masterclass,
that was, that's coaching, too, you know what I mean, and technique. But he's a very, again, fundamentally sound guy. And One last question about Bosa before we move on.
For sure.
I heard him talk over the summer. You've been obviously at camp. You covered him. You've been around the team a lot. He talks about, it just seems like he genuinely enjoys being here. It feels like to me, like a lot of times we'll hear players talk, I love to be here, I'm glad to be here. And you kind of see do that a little bit. They're like, well, they're here because they're here. I got the feeling, the vibes that he genuinely means it. Like he likes being here in Buffalo. He likes his city. He likes his teammates. Mm-hmm. They bonded. I mean, I think he had a comment that he did more in his first couple months here with his team than he did in all of his time with the Chargers. Yeah. Do you get that sense that, like, what he's saying is not just for the camera? Like, he genuinely is enjoying right now being a Buffalo Bill? And who knows? This might end up being, going on the line too far, but this might be more than just a little one-year thing.
Perhaps, right? And I'm sure if Brandon Beane gets the return on his value, I'm sure he would love to find a way to make the money happen where that could happen in the long term without getting too far ahead of ourselves. I do believe it's genuine. Maybe the years of this injury and being in Los Angeles, and I'm not saying the Chargers are commanding the Los Angeles media attention that, let's say, like the Lakers or the Dodgers do or something like that, but you're in a bigger limelight. Like, you are in a bigger stage in a bigger city where, and let's be frank too, like everybody kind of, downtown to Orchard Park to Hamburg to East Aurora, like that you're going to find a bulk of the players around that area. They all live very close to each other, whereas like a big city, things are all spread out too. So Joey Bosa probably just found like, oh my God, I'm like my neighbors are 3 of my teammates. This is great. I'm like, I can't believe this.
Yeah.
That slower way of life, I'm sure, as he's gotten a little bit older, settles down with his wife and his dog that he talked about too. Like, those are all the things that Buffalo offers, which I do believe just on the quality of life factor for an NFL player. Yeah, that probably means a little bit more when you're in that point of your career than like, let's go play in a New York and an LA where I can be around it all, where I can go to Madison Square Garden and go sit front row. You can sit front row at a Sabres game, just doesn't have the same pull as sitting front row at a Knicks game,
I don't know why you want to do that anyway.
Yeah,
you want them to like, you want them to stay here, you want them to be here. That's probably not the smartest.
But it goes back to like what his comment, what he said. He's having fun again. I think that's, you go to a place like Buffalo, guys feel like they can have fun. They're free. And it also helps too, Pat. Let's just call it what it is. Anytime these big-name free agents come in, they're coming in like, Josh Allen's my quarterback. The reigning MVP is going to be the quarterback. Like, he said it in the locker room after the Ravens game, like, wow.
He looked like a fan. He sounded like a fan.
Yes, getting to like when you're on the same sideline as Josh Allen, it changes your perspective on this team, this city, this organization. And in terms of his health, you can't predict it. You hope Joey Bosa stays healthy because what he can do for this defense is great. But in just the happiness, I truly do feel like that's sincere from him.
I agree, and I think that might it just gives him more energy, man. And it's early, but it's showing so far.
Right.
On the other side of the ball, my big takeaway was James Cook.
Yeah.
So 132 yards rushing, that 44-yard highlight reel touchdown, and my takeaway is this, and it's not unique to this game, and so it's not new, and I just did not pop in my head this morning. I have felt this way the entire year, throughout the process, the contract thing. Thought maybe it gets ugly. Fortunately, it didn't come to that, but there were a lot of people this offseason, Dom, who said, well, don't pay him, trade him, let him go. Ray Davis can get the job done. Ty Johnson, they're fine. They don't need him. You got Frank Gore Jr., they're going to be fine. I like all those guys. Mm-hmm. They all have a role, okay? And they're an asset to this organization on and off the field. James Cook, to me, is just on a different level, though. Like, he's got that extra gear that the others don't. And, again, that's not to throw shade on any of those guys. That's more of an endorsement on what I think James Cook brings to the table. And you see it, man. You see it on, like, obviously the big
100%.
plays, that touchdown run, the 51-yard catch and run last week against Baltimore. That was a huge play. I mean, he makes Patrick Queen miss. If he doesn't make him miss, that's a 7-yard gain. It turns into a 51-yard gain against the Ravens. But even that, like, he hits a hole, and it doesn't seem like there's anything there, but he still gets 4 yards because he just wiggle. I don't know. It's just something different about him, Dom.
The long touchdown run yesterday, to your point, I'll start there, is so you ever see, like, when you're on Twitter, and I see Elena Getzenberg does post these all the time for me, which are great, is the dots. On that long touchdown run, you see the dots animation. James is at the line of scrimmage. There's 4 green dots around him. The play should have been dead. You're like, if you don't know any better, you're like, oh, he's tackled for a 1-yard gain. Somehow you just see the 4 dot in blue just somehow skirt out of it, go down the sideline in for a touchdown. The 3 running back argument with James and Ray and Ty, They all complement each other really well. I think that's why it works. Like Ty is a very good third down back.
Yes.
Ray is good up in the A and the B gap, and James can do a little bit of everything if you need, right? It works because all three of them bring something different. And James Cook is just a different beast. The Kyron Williams argument, which everybody, when like he got the contract about a week or so before James did, and they're like, well, Kyron Williams on the field 87% of the time, and James Cook is not even passing whatever it was, 50 or 60, whatever that number was. But when James Cook is on the field, the offense has a totally different dynamic. He does things that a Kyron Williams just doesn't do for the Rams offense. Like, you need more of a workhorse from a Kyron Williams role. You don't need that from James Cook because you have two guys behind him that do other things very well in this Joe Brady offense. That's what makes him so dynamic, but he does those things. And I talked about it on the podcast with Bill today. I go back to the AFC Championship game, and I said this so many times this offseason. I don't know where the people, where the money comes from in terms of just like how they feel like they're going to evaluate him, what his true worth is. But that performance in the AFC Championship game is why Josh Allen had a chance late and Dalton Kincaid drops that pass. But James Cook in that game against Kansas City is the reason why that offense had a shot late in the game. And you saw it there today. Josh Allen didn't have to throw on the Superman cape after having to do it week one. James Cook lightens the load, makes this very easy. The ball, the time of possession, too, I think Matt tweeted this yesterday. In the third quarter, the Jets ran 3 offensive plays. They had a 3 and out in the third quarter. The Bills controlled the ball for everything except for 3 plays in the entire third quarter. When you get it going like that and you have to account for James Cook, it opens up so much, right? And that is what the James Cook experience is. That is why now, I've said it even before that game, I think that contract was fair for both sides, and I think Bills fans should be very happy James Cook is among that solid core 4 that they signed this offseason that's going to be here, because he is going to be one of those guys, if and when they ever hoist a Lombardi, James Cook will have a direct effect in that.
I'm really glad that you said what you just said, too, that it's a good deal for both sides. It's enough money to make James happy, and it's enough, they paid him enough. The team saved enough money. Some people thought they could pay, that the team is still happy, too. Let me offer you and our wonderful viewers, which, by the way, we're well over 1,500 now on the live side.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm going to give you a little bit of a sizzling take here. Those extensions, 5 of them now during the offseason, Christian Bedford is going to prove to be the most valuable contract.
Yeah, of course.
Just because I think he's absolutely criminally underpaid.
They didn't have to pay him $100 million.
No.
James could have been worth it, too.
James Cook could end up being the second best value of all those extensions, of Shakir, of Bernard, of Rizzo. And I'm not saying any of those are bad extensions or that they won't turn out to be good deals.
Right.
But I'm just saying James Cook, for what you said, and I agree with you, dude, if the Bills do win the Super Bowl, James Cook is going to have a pivotal part in them doing that with this offense. He might turn out to end up being the second best value of any of those contracts.
When we talk to Josh Allen about guys on the offense, right, like he praises everybody, and that's just who Josh is, but you get a lot for Khalil Shakir. That's why Khalil got the extension, because Josh and him are just, the chemistry is there, and Khalil does the things, the yards after catch that just make this offense better. When James was going through the whole contract thing and the parts of it that were a little nasty and a little tumultuous, you'd ask Josh about it. And I think towards the end, the last time we really got to ask Josh about the situation and his thoughts on James, I really thought Josh was kind of like almost kind of giving, or I would say tipping his hand, or however the phrase is we need to bring James back. He's like, I'm not going to directly in this press conference tell Brandon Beane, like, hey, go get it done. I think one way or another he knew something was going to work. Both sides were going to come to an agreement. Regardless, James was here for another year. So whatever it may be. But I do think Josh Allen strongly started subtly hint at the fact that I want James here. I might have to use my franchise reigning MVP kind of privilege here to be like, hey, let's find a way to make this happen because I want him and I need him on this offense.
Fortunately, we'll never know.
No,
but
we don't.
But was one of your primary concerns, because it was certainly one of mine, was that James Cook doesn't get a new deal. Ultimately, he plays because he doesn't want to lose the money, but maybe you don't get that. I'm not going to say he wouldn't go out there and play hard, but maybe you don't get that above and beyond approach from him because he wants to get paid in free agency. So he might not play through a sore leg. Right. He might not want to carry the ball, 9 times in a quarter of a tight game. Things like that. Was that that was among my bigger concerns. And that's not to slander James, the character, or James Cook. This was business.
Right.
He said it. I'm standing on business, and he kept saying business, business, business.
I like it. I like my money.
He likes his money. He was not going to not play because he wasn't going to lose his money. But I thought a major concern of mine would have been, do you get, like I said, somebody who's not going to go above and beyond at the end of the day because he's going to he doesn't want to take a chance of getting hurt and not getting his money, which I would understand that too. I'm going to put that out there. But that was one of my primary concerns coming into at least training camp anyway.
You're totally valid. And hindsight would be a beautiful thing to have. Part of me does it. I don't think so, only because if James Cook knew he wanted to test free agency, there's a part like, okay, hey, I'm a little banged up. Maybe I don't play through this injury because I need to make sure I'm healthy when free agency happens. But I also think, too, is like James Cook has an opportunity because he knows who his quarterback is, because he knows the system and the division being kind of how weak it is because of how top-heavy Buffalo is in the East. He pretty much knows he has a great shot at winning the division. Yeah. He have a great shot at winning an AFC championship and bringing back the first ever Super Bowl to Buffalo. I think that sort of thing might outweigh that factor. Again, you don't know. It wasn't one of my concerns only because I think James had a lot more to lose if things had gone that direction rather than him putting in his best effort. And then, hey, maybe he has a great season. Bean has to kind of, go back on a little bit and be like, man, we might have to really pay him, and now I got to pay him a whole lot more because the market value has just exploded for him. You don't know, but that's why it was never my concern, just because there's so many possibilities of the way it could have went.
And going back to what you said with the contract when you call it a win-win, James Cook also knows there's a win-win on the field as well. He is also, he does some incredible things, but he's also helped by having Josh Allen as the quarterback, and also, we haven't even talked about them today, a very underrated, solid offensive line that really, that'll make any running back look pretty damn good as well. Another thing that I wanted to get to, we'll start to wind down here, but I do want to talk about the safeties on Sunday. I thought they had a much better game. Cole Bishop was very aggressive, looked locked in. Taylor Rapp had a good game as well. I kind of want to be a little bit careful, though, because like Sean McDermott said on Monday here, shortly before we're streaming this, that he saw a different look in their eye. They had a different look in their eyes, I think he said, about the safeties. Well, I'm like, yeah, that look was Justin Fields at quarterback and not Lamar Jackson. So I'm sure that makes a big difference. So I want to be a little bit careful. I mean, that Jets offense looked pathetic. Yeah. But they didn't look pathetic against a good Pittsburgh Steelers defense. They put up, 32 points, I believe, that game?
Yeah.
So I don't want to take credit away from the Bills and specifically these safeties. I guess coming into the season, like many people, besides injuries, that's probably my number one concern is to play the safeties. It has not been consistently good at all, and they haven't consistently been healthy either. This was, if we're keeping it strictly to this game, a very promising effort for both safeties.
I'm not going to defend what I thought was a pretty putrid day on defense against the Ravens, really, for this Bills team. Yeah. But, you have the old phrase, like a get-right game. You don't have Lamar Jackson. You also don't have like a 220-pound running back named Derrick Henry that can literally bowl as Cole Bishop, how that was. You don't have that kind of element coming at you with the Jets offense. So it almost felt like, hey, this was a get-right game. Their confidence, they've probably been hearing it from their coach. They see it on film. These guys are pretty self-critical of themselves. I'm sure they hated what they saw on film. But, hey, you got to wash it, move on, because you have an opportunity against a team that, let's just face it, their big vertical threat is Garrett Wilson. You lock him up, you have Benford, you have Trayon, and whatever it may be. You take him out of the equation. You pretty much know stack 3 linebackers because you didn't have Taryn in there, and say, hey, Justin Fields, you're going to have to go try to beat us today with your arm.
He almost beat Pittsburgh, though.
Yeah,
that's the
he
thing.
did. But and they called this bluff, and they did a really good job. So I think that's a game you needed to see them bounce back because the opportunity was there. It's a little bit easier going against a Jets offense than it is a Ravens offense, but they had I would say, very 180 performance. Their whole defense really did, but definitely for the safeties, for Cole and for Taylor, that's the kind of opponent you have to do it on. I think we'd be having a much different conversation. Our tone would be different if we were starting to see some of those same problems happen at the rate or even close to the quantity that it did against the Ravens. But that just helps when you're going against an offense that is much more inferior than the team you had to go up against in week 1. So promising effort. I'm curious to see. Sean McDermott loves the word consistency, right? How does this stack up? What do we get to see on a short week Thursday? How do they respond to that challenge, right? How does this defense continue to respond to it? Because let's face it, the Dolphins offense, while there's always a chance, you always have that spark, they don't look nearly as good as they have in years past. Like the Dolphins have really feel like they're falling off a cliff offensively.
Oh.
But this is one of those games where you're like, man, they should be able to handle business. But if you don't, again, Pat, we'd be having a much different conversation if you and I are doing this podcast a week from now. So good performance. I'm not going to get too high on them, but it was a great bounce back performance. Let's call it just that.
I'll say this, and we can talk about the defense for another hour. Obviously, we're not going to do that, but they all played well. Ed Oliver not being out there was concerning, but we knew that was coming. Sunday morning, a little bit, I was like, oh, come on now. No Taron Johnson, either of that.
Yeah.
Because in hindsight, now it made perfect sense because they just weren't throwing the ball. Get the guy right, give him some extra rest going into this Thursday. One other guy I wanted to talk about, and by the way, we'll just gloss over, but special teams was really good too. Matt Prater. Yep. Actually, I'm going to ask you something about Matt Prater. We'll get that in a second. But Elijah Moore, he had a nice 31-yard catch and also that end-around touchdown, which is what he does well. I mean, it was kind of a revenge game against the Jets. We've been talking about that. It's good and it's bad. It's good because Eli Moore is showing you some stuff now. I thought he had a great spring and a very mediocre summer at training camp, to be honest with you. But this was the vision for an Elijah Moore. You know, he's not going to go out and get 9 targets in this offense, but make the most of them. He has a nice 31-yard catch. Like I said, he has a touchdown end around. Good for him. Meanwhile, Curtis Samuel, bad for him because, look,
2 straight healthy scratches.
Week 1, I'm like, all right, I can see why. He's missed a lot of camp. Maybe they want to get him more reps. Well, this was the week. He got plenty of reps, I'm sure, last week, and he still didn't play. Elijah Moore did, and I certainly don't see him getting back in the lineup now. Has Curtis Samuel at this point turned into pure insurance? Like, it's going to take an injury to somebody, one of those top 4 guys for Curtis Samuel, it feels like to me, to get on the field, because Tyrell Shaver is a special teams guy. He's got his role on this team.
Yeah, I think that's what saves Shavers, is because if Shavers is not playing special teams, Shavers doesn't even make the initial 53 man. Let's call it what it is. But I think that's where his spot is solidified. The Curtis Samuel experiment is weird. It's a really weird situation because I really thought with what his skill set is and having that experience with Joe Brady, I really thought this was going to work. And at the end of last season, like, I go back to the Jets game, I go back to the Patriots game, like, you saw it. Like, you're like, man, kind of like how you saw the Elijah Moore have a little bit of success yesterday. I don't know what is going on with this Curtis Samuel situation, but as somebody who I go back to in March, Matt and I each did something on our Instagram where we picked a guy like, hey, a free agent who the Bills should go after. We both hit wide receivers, and we both named. He was Josh Palmer, and I was Elijah Moore. So if there's anybody here who has been waiting for an Elijah Moore breakout game like that, it's been this guy, because I have been having to eat shit about it all preseason. Because here's the thing, too, Pat. He didn't have Josh Allen throwing to him. He had Mike White.
Yeah.
Mitch Trubisky a little bit. Shane Buechele. Like, you put Josh Allen, he's going to make anybody look good. He's going to elevate himself. And I like what Elijah Moore brings. I'm curious to see how it keeps ramping up. It was weird to also see Khalil Shakir have a much quieter game, too. Like those two going back and forth. But, hey, it's Joe Brady routes. Get open, clear some routes, find the open guy underneath in space, and let's go see what happened here. But Elijah Moore's done nothing to me that says he's not going to get into that roster and be active every game day. There's nothing that tells me Curtis Samuel is coming back active in this lineup anytime soon. At this point, it's looking like them. Do they trade him? Do you just eat the dead money? I don't know if you do. I don't know if Brandon Beane can stomach the dead money on Curtis Samuel. No. But otherwise, he just sits there. And again, it's a great insurance policy to have. It's not like you're bringing on, I'm trying to think of just a random wide receiver that I want to disrespect, but it'd be different if it's like Sky Moore in there, at least Curtis Samuel's had some proven track record of success. He has done well in this offense. Good insurance policy to have. But the whole situation, I will say to your point, it's weird to just watch this kind of all unfold and him kind of seemingly have a back seat behind now Tyrell Shavers, who's become this camp story that's worked out, that has found his role on special teams and found a way onto this roster.
It's easy, and I understand why, and I get annoyed with it, too, to shit on Curtis Samuel right now. A bust, one of the worst free agent signings ever. The only thing I would say is, listen, it's week 2. And the odds of 4 wide receivers playing 17 games and staying healthy for 17 games is low.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to get hurt. And if Curtis Samuel is there and he gets onto the field and he helps his team win, because it's all about January, we all know that.
Right.
At some point, if he helps his team win a game that matters, who gives a shit what he's doing right now? I mean, you don't want to pay a guy a bunch of money to be healthy and active. But my point is, there will come a time and a place where Curtis Samuel will matter on the team. So that's the reason why they're already in cap shitty hell as it is right now with this team. Nobody's going to trade. No one's going to take that salary on.
You're getting like a
already.
7th round at best too, and where's that value? Look at the 7th round. They got Caden Prather this year. This guy didn't even make it.
They would have done that already if they were going to get if somebody was interested. Anyway, so there's that. The question I wanted to ask you about Matt Prater here, and it's just really simple to the point. Are the Bills facing or looking at a soon enough controversy when it comes to kicker? This dude's money, man, but he also doesn't have. He's not going to make a 61-yarder like Tyler Bass can, but he ain't missing a 38-yarder either. I just feel weirdly comfortable, Dom, watching the game. I never get panicked when he's kicking. Like, I get a little bit of anxiety every time Tyler Bass kicks an extra point, even when he's good. I guess it's just because we've seen enough of the bad enough that it sticks with me. I feel comfortable about Prater, but I also know he doesn't quite have the leg strength that a younger Tyler Bass does.
Yeah, I think that hurts him. The leg strength, I mean, you go look at his splits and his stats, like anything over 53 is at a much lower rate than what he is. But anything under it, you're seeing consistency that you haven't always gotten with Tyler Bass. To your point, you took the words out of my mouth. I think the thing that when I talk to, whether it's my buddies who are Bills fans and whether it's just conversations with people around in the media, it's you don't panic when Matt Prater is kicking it. You don't have that anxiousness. I watch his mechanics. Like, it's a very simple motion. He doesn't look like he's putting a lot into it, but every time, like, it's just, it's in. When he had the game winner against the Ravens, the only thing now, I didn't see it until I saw the sky cam footage of it, how close Kyle Hamilton was to blocking it, which was bananas, crazy. Yeah. But I knew the second I was like, this is going in. Like, this is money. I get ready to run on the field and go get your shot of this team going crazy because they just pulled off the sickest comeback you've ever witnessed in your life here. Right. So it's tough. Tyler Bass, after he hit that 61-yard game winner against Miami last year, was completely different. I think he finally got that confidence back. He wasn't perfect, but he was way more consistent, flashed some of that old Tyler Bass that got him that contract that he got from Brandon Beane a couple years back. I think this is Tyler Bass's job still. I think they pay him too much money for him to just lose and go backseat to Matt Prater. But while Tyler Bass is on IR for however long that may be, it's good insurance to have Matt Prater there. That's what I think. I don't, as much as maybe my mind has wondered, like, is Matt Prater going to steal this job from Tyler Bass? I don't think we're getting to that point.
I don't either, but I will say it might make them take their sweet old time with Tyler Bass getting back on the field. I was exaggerating in half, Joel. I was fully joking, but I said maybe one of you media people should accidentally hit him in his pelvic area again and so he can have a couple more weeks of soreness, so I could see if Matt Prater can last longer kicking all the way he is. I want to flip things a little bit here, and we'll be quick with this too. In terms of bad takeaways, not really. Well, Dawson Knox dropped 2 balls, and it obviously didn't hurt them, but it's annoying. You never know when you, just like with Tyler Bass, I get that uneasy feeling. Even when he's playing well, I still get a little bit of an uneasy feeling when he kicks.
Yeah, for sure.
I get an uneasy feeling when Josh Allen throws a ball to Dawson Knox. I am horrified that the Bills are going to be in a divisional round or AFC Championship game on a key 3rd and 8, and they're going to go to Dawson Knox in the flat. He's going to drop the ball because we've seen him drop a lot of passes. But he also makes some great catches, a great blocker. He can run after the catch. Does a lot of things good. But the drops are worrisome.
Yeah, how blessed are we that you cover and you watch a team that you have to go get pretty minute and get picky with the details of what your takeaways are in terms of what you don't like. I think it's fair. I think some of the balls that Dawson dropped are they're drive killers. You can't establish any momentum. He's not the only one. There are other people who have been very much guilty of that too. I really want to see Dalton Kincaid have more of a role because he's just, if you get the full potential that you can unlock out of Dalton Kincaid, I think he just takes his offense to another level. He's a guy that once you find Pandora's box and you finally just get it going with him, your offense is going to go to new heights. Dawson Knox was still, the most comfortable tight end that I think we would have taken last year just because of how much Dalton Kincaid struggled coming off the injury. So it's tough there. I think my biggest takeaway, and this is specifically from being at the Jets game yesterday, I did not they had a 3rd down play call in the red zone where it was just this gaudy run to James Cook and it got stuffed at the line of scrimmage. It was a bad play call. Inconsistent in the red zone.
Yeah.
Buffalo's got it. Like Joe Brady, they got to punch the ball in the end zone way more against that team. Yeah, it's just you've got to end those drives in 6, and they know that too. But that was my big takeaway in terms of just one of the very minor things that I would take away from that performance yesterday was red zone efficiency has to be better. You've got to score touchdowns, and I know the Jets defense isn't like. I mean, you scored 30 points on them, though, so I don't know. I don't even know how I can really compliment the Jets' defense. But, like, I know they're good, but you still put up 30 on them. You got to score touchdowns there because we are talking about a third quarter where Mitch Trubisky might be in to almost start the half. You know, you might get Josh Allen for one series in the third quarter if they are punching the ball in every single time they're going down in the red zone in the first half, and then Mitch comes in and you're coasty living because you don't have to worry about Josh Allen getting hurt. He can rest his nose up or whatever it may be. So that was kind of my big takeaway in terms of what I would need to see. Tough on a short week, but moving forward, Bills have got to get the ball in the end zone and the red zone more.
How about Mitch, by the way? That was a dope throw. That was a dart.
To
Josh Palmer, that one throw. I was like, God damn. He came in the game. I'm like, yo, they're going to hand the ball off, and if they bunt, they bunt. They're going to
that's a dot.
What's going on with Josh? What a dart he threw.
I didn't get to see any of this because I'm getting a shot of Josh over on the bench because he's got 100 trainers around him, all these towels up to his nose. I'm looking to see if they're adjusting it, if it's just bleeding. And then I see this, like the big crowd cheer happens, and I don't know what happens until I'm scrolling on Twitter in halftime, and I watch that ball. I'm like, all right, Mitch. That's 2017 Mitch Trubisky just flashed real quick there at MetLife. But, hey, great insurance, right? You talk about all that. We said the word insurance policy a bunch there, too. Mitch Trubisky, that's a good guy to have. Good. God forbid, at least you know there's someone competent there that could run this offense if you come into a situation. Josh Allen has a nosebleed, has to go off the field for a play. Go in there, get a first down. He rightfully got his flowers for it.
Brandon Beane's got to feel good when he sees a play like that because people were writing the Mitch Trubisky eulogy for his time with the Buffalo Bills this summer. I feel like it was like everyone was saying that Mike White was going to be the one who made this team. Mitch made it, and plays like that are why. I have one last take too, and it's not really a Jets takeaway. It's a 2-week takeaway here. So going back to week 1 against Baltimore. Dorian Strong gets to start, and he did some pretty good things. He got beat one time, but he wasn't really tested. Like, I still don't know who Dorian Strong is. 6th-round rookie, that's what he is. Trey White plays this game. Really nice run stop behind the line of scrimmage for a 5-yard loss. Yep. And he actually had 2 really nice run stops, which is funny because he's not really known as a run defender. But he didn't get targeted. He got one pass thrown at him, and I remember yelling at my TV at this point. Arian Smith ran like a 13-yard out, and Trey gave him so much cushion. Now, the play didn't count because, A, the Jets were offensively offsides, and B,
so many penalties.
He actually didn't catch it anyway. He didn't have control of it.
Yeah.
But my point is he got beat on that play. It should have been an easy 13-yard play. I don't know what I got from CB2. I don't know what I got with Trey White. I don't know what I got with Dorian Strong. That's not really a bad takeaway or a good takeaway. Neither guy has been tested through 2 weeks. What will happen is, it'll be Trey. He's going to get tested against Miami because they got Waddle, they got Hill, and they are going to go after Trey White plenty, inevitably, to your point. So I don't know what I got there still, 2 games in at all.
Yeah, it's to your point, like Dorian didn't tested. Trey didn't really get tested at all. But it's, okay, what do you value a younger, maybe a little faster rookie with a little bit more experience, or do you take a veteran who maybe is going to give up that little 13-yard out route with cushion, but you're not going to get beat deep with a long shot? Like that, Trey knows his defense. It's kind of the McDermott staple of just like, hey, give up the underneath, but don't give up the big play kind of mentality. I think in a perfect world, Max Harrison never gets hurt, and he is inevitably probably winning the starting cornerback spot opposite of Christian Benford at this moment, and you have Trey as a veteran rotation piece in case something happens to Max, or it's in a case of like, hey, you're blowing out a team or you're getting blown out, then you can throw Trey White in there. I think that kind of messed things up too now where you're putting more responsibility on a guy like Trey White than you maybe initially intended when you brought him back this season. I don't want to say this because I hope Trey White and I hope Dorian get burned by an opposing offense. To your point, I think we need to see them get tested because you need to see hey, how screwed maybe are you at this position when you start going against these more elite offenses and these teams that are going to put you on the rope in January come that time. And you hope obviously Max Harrison is up to speed and back and he shows you what you need to get out of a first-round cornerback. But yeah, there's definitely questions there, and I'll be very curious to see how this defense approaches, like you said, a passing attack that, regardless of how bad Miami's offense might be, it's still Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill with Tua Tagovailoa. They've played the Bills well in games past. I'm not going back to last year in particular, but they have given the Bills some fits, and that's a very good offense.
Second last point here. Let's not speculate. We don't know. But Matt Milano is injured. We know that, and it's a pec, and we know that. I've heard things where he might only miss 2 games. He might miss 5 games. He can miss 10 games. We don't know right now, but how concerning is it that we're 3 weeks in and we're going through this again? Summer long at camp, I thought he was arguably the best player on the football field a lot of days at training camp. Nobody played good against Baltimore, really, on the defensive side, unless your name's Ed Oliver.
Right.
Everyone played good against the Jets for the most part, including Matt Milano. I thought he played a good football game, but again, he's hurt. Dorian Williams is very capable, and he's got starting experience now. That's good. That 4-3 that they've been running more now, I don't know what they do. Is Shaq Thompson going to go into that role? Do they run that less now?
Yeah.
I don't know, but how concerning is it that Matt Milano is already hurt? And it's like, man, I don't know. At what point do you say, you know what, I'm just going to stay with Dorian Williams?
Yeah, my first thought, honestly, is it's heartbreaking. Just with Milano is such a difference maker. And this summer, like to your point, he was one of the camp standouts. He was one of the best players at camp. And you just know this defense has a different element. It plays with different physicality, and it just has a spark when Matt Milano is on the field. But the injury history, and I've seen some people tweet about it today, and you don't know what the extent of the injury is. It sounds like if it's that pec injury, like the one he suffered a couple years ago. Remember, I think he came back after a week or two, tried it, and then he ended up having to come out and sat like another 2 to 3 weeks after that because he came back too early. If that's the case, I think you take that and you just kind of ride through what will be a somewhat easier stretch of the schedule coming up, and you let him get healthy for, again, it's like the Joey Bosa thing. Yeah. Let him get healthy for when it matters, right? But if it proves to be something more long-term, then you have to have a real conversation of like, might just be time. It might be time to move on. And I'm not ready to go there yet because I don't know the extent of this injury. Right. But it's very unfortunate because Matt Milano does make this defense better regardless of the injury history before. It's the same argument with Joey Bosa. When he's healthy, he's a difference maker, and he provides something that this defense needs that can help them go toe-to-toe with those offenses that they're going to see inevitably when they're playing big games in the winter.
If you're looking for some optimism out there, I'll say this. Terrell Bernard had a pec strain last year. And again, we don't know the extent of Milano. It could be a strain too. Bernard missed 2 games last year, and he was back with a pec strain. Last thing here. So looking forward to Miami, which, again, the game will be on locally on Channel 7. Watch it on Channel 7. Anyway.
Thank you.
I think you're going to get one of 2 outcomes with Miami. You're either going to get a team, there's no way between. You're either going to get a team that is absolutely playing for their season because they know if they lose this game, it is over for them. There's a chance, depending on how it goes, Mike McDaniel might be coaching his last game. You'll have 10 days in between their next game after this.
Right.
So you have a team that's going to be playing like your life depends on it, or you're going to have a team that I think is very good, possibly is quitting already. Like, they're checked out. They had a players-only meeting after 1 game, man, and the way they've lost, the leadership, I'm not a Mike McDaniel guy. I've been very open about this. I don't think he's a leader of men. I have talked to, let's just say this, I've talked to 2 former players who play for Miami who are not very high on the leadership skills of Mike McDaniel. I'll just leave it at that, okay?
Yeah.
Anyway, this is a team that is, if they're not quitting right now, they're ready to. You know, if the Bills go out and they get up 2 scores in the first quarter, you might see a team that lays down and just wants to get this game over with.
Like we saw Sunday.
And move on. Like we saw exactly. So, what Miami team are you expecting? Because it could be one or the other, man.
No, your first point, the first scenario is a good point that I kind of now I'm just thinking about. Yeah, like you put a team against the wall, backs against the wall, season on the line, like they, the desperation comes out. Sometimes you find that different element because you're like, hey, we got to keep it going there. But I've heard the same reports, the same speculation about Mike McDaniel and the lack of respect and the way he has lost this locker room. I'll be very curious to see after maybe like midway through the second quarter how that score looks and where the trajectory of this game is. When you take all the narrative out of that, the Bills are the better team.
Yeah.
It's a short week. You're tough. But you're home. You're relatively healthy. You aren't losing critical pieces in this moment. I know, like, if you're probably not going to see. I can't imagine them rushing Ed Oliver back.
No,
I don't think you're seeing Matt Milano. Obviously, Taryn and Shaq Thompson were limited, so maybe they're coming back. But even with a guy like Taryn, like, do you rush it for a team where you feel like maybe you can beat them with the guys you already have who are healthy there?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. But it is tricky. It's a trap game, just kind of like how the Jets were, too. 3 weeks in the season, you have a trap game. You're at home, short week, a team that is playing like a hungry dog that doesn't have any food in the bowl that needs to find some. That could be dangerous. If I had to go with a gut feeling, I think you're going to see the second team, like the Dolphins, that go down 21-3 and go.
They don't believe
a lot
in
of
their
swear words.
quarterback.
Let's just say you're going to see maybe a video on Channel 7 or on Prime, whatever you're watching on, of Mike McDaniel getting yelled at by Tyreek Hill or something, you know?
I don't think they believe in their quarterback, and I don't know that they should.
That's and I'll tell you what, it's one thing not to believe in your coach.
Not a good leader either.
It's one thing not to believe in your coach. If there is a loss of faith in Tua as your court, like, that's the last person you don't want to have faith in. And you see it. You want football teams that don't have faith in their quarterback, guess what they do, Pat? They lose. They lose a lot. So if that's the case, then Buffalo should have a nice, very mini bye week, going 3-0. If that's the case, we're sitting pretty here if we were having this podcast a week from now.
Never say never, of course. But, last week, if you would have been on the show with me, we could have said the same thing about the Jets. Listen, they're desperate. They're hungry. They want to win. They want to make a statement. They want to show the world that we are right there with the Buffalo Bills, and we could punch back all this. They're at home, yada, 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 and the Bills just went they went to New Jersey and just shellacked them.
You do, and because division games are a toss-up. You never know. You never know how that's going to turn out. Like, I go back to 2 years ago, Bills season basically on the line, where they have to go into Week 18 in Miami, and Deontay Hardy runs that punt return back. Like, that's a team where, like, Miami was like, man, we got it. We are the top dogs in the division. It is our turn now. Buffalo had that really rough stretch where they lost a few games going into Philly, and they basically had to win out, and they did. And then Deontay Hardy does that magic. Like, stupid things like that can happen, and I'm not saying that it couldn't. There's no possibility of that. But I think at the core, you take all this, like, the figurative and the hypotheticals out of the situation. Buffalo's a better team. Go out there and play like it, just like you did Sunday, and I think you're going to be fine.
And listen, I'll say one last thing here about Sean McDermott. One of my favorite things about him as a head coach is there's lots of reasons to guard against a lot down. There's lots of factors that can make you concerned. Bills generally, if they beat who they're supposed to beat. They don't give away games. They won the turnover battle in NFL history, record 24 consecutive games. They don't give you games. You got to come take it. They might not play their best,
right,
but they're not going to give you games.
Sean McDermott has gotten his fair share of criticism over his tenure here in the Bills, and for some, it's rightfully so, right? But the one thing that there's many things I can say that Sean McDermott does that I do think he does well. The one thing that's been consistent, for the most part, he coaches circles around Mike McDaniel.
Oh, yes. If Sean McDermott only played against Miami and Mike McDaniel, we'd be talking about him as the greatest NFL coach maybe in history.
And so, again, that's one of those things. You take all the hypotheticals and the other wacky things out of the way. That's what the Bills have. That's a consistent factor. You have Sean McDermott on your sideline. You have Josh Allen. You have a defense that is now has a little rejuvenated confidence. Like, hey, we can go out and beat the teams that we got to beat. A little bit different offense. You have some playmakers. But, hey, that team's reeling. Handle your business.
We've talked ourselves into an appetite again for me. And we're like a couple minutes away from going to
I'm
get
actually looking to just make sure they didn't throw the wings out. So
I will kill somebody here at Imperial Pizza if they do the wings out. Let me ask you one last question.
Sure.
About wings, too. This isn't an infomercial. I love Imperial Pizza. Big shout out to Imperial for hosting. I love their food. This is an incredible place. Everybody knows that. But I'm allowed to also talk about other places that are great, too, as well.
Sure.
If you were going to call me up and say, hey, Pat, man, you want to get some wings? I'm like, sure. Where do you want to go? Your choice. Where are we going?
The obvious answer is I'm going to go. Let's go to Bar-Bill. Let's go to Bar-Bill.
Fair.
But in the spirit of the fact that we're in South Buffalo, because I truly do think there are days where I think this might be the best wing, and I also this place has great food, and I love it. It's a South Buffalo little charm staple. I'll say, Pat, let's go to Doc Sullivan's.
Yeah.
Let's go have a day. Let's have a pint of Guinness and a few spicy garlic parms, some Goldie sauce, the 40 sauce. Let's go have a day at Doc Sullivan's. I think that is a very think Doc Sullivan's gets the proper credit it deserves. But for me, on my scale, I still think it's underrated because I think it belongs, at least to me, in the elite tier of wings.
Let me leave you with this last take. This is a great take from me, too. One of my better takes, actually.
I love when someone is like, this is my take, and it is great.
4 of them are technically South Buffalo. One of them actually technically is Lackawanna. But where we are right now at Imperial Pizza on Abbott Road, you are within a 2-mile radius of the best stretch of wings in Western New York.
Okay.
All right? You got here.
Yep.
You got Doc Sullivan's, which you just said. Potter's Field, grossly underrated.
Haven't been yet. Okay.
9/11.
Oh.
The GOAT. 9/11 to me, the GOAT. You got fans here trying to get in the camera shot. And then Sunny Reds up the road about a mile or so away. So you got Imperial, Sunny Reds, Potter's Field, Doc Sullivan's, 9/11
That's a good
Tavern,
lineup.
all within like a 2-mile radius.
Yeah, and you could also make, well, the thing is, like, I could make the argument, Pat, let's go to 9/11, but my guy, we're going to have to set up with tents and chairs at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and then we have to hope that they're open that day. But when you do get inside and you find a space, like, yeah, 9/11 wings are very good.
No, we don't, and I'll tell you why as we get off the air here. You got your sports media people, you got your athletes, you might be able to get somebody on speed dial, get a little bit of your perks on. Guess what? One of my perks, very few perks that I'll brag on, if you want 9/11, I'll make a phone call.
My guy.
And we'll get 9/11 anytime. I'm friends with the
Beautiful.
owner. I made sure to make friends with the owner. I'd rather be friends with her than you, than Perino, than Joe B, than Beauvais, than anyone else. Give me paid shout out at 9/11 Tavern.
I'd be more upset if you said it the opposite way around, Pat. Go get your wing plug, my man.
All right, big thank you. By the way, well over 2,000 people checked in with us live here tonight. Appreciate that very much. A Monday night here. Again, shout out Imperial Pizza, 1035 Abbott Road. Home of the best lunch special in town, by the way. Look it up online. Awesome. Dom Tibbetts, Channel 7, great job.
Thank you, sir. Always
looking
a
forward to
pleasure.
checking out your podcast with Brother Bill. And also, like I said, Channel 7, the place to be for the big game on Thursday. Thank you very much, guys. Talk to you soon.